Okay, we have our screwdriver blank out of the lathe. At this point we're going to measure heights off. One of the things you could do is actually, if you wanted to, you could probably cut off this end of your screwdriver as long as it's all 1 inch. Okay, if you think you have enough to get your 4.5 inches or 4.25 inches out of your screwdriver handle. Otherwise, you can leave it the way it is and grab it back here. It's just going to make it, a little harder to balance on this next operation. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this steel blue layout fluid. What it is it allows you to have contrast between the scribes you make with the vernier height gauge and the aluminum. Otherwise it'd be difficult to see what you're doing. So I have a piece of cardboard here, and make sure that you do this on cardboard. This is one of the nastiest, messiest products known to man. And we're going to paint a very thin layer on our part. You don't have to paint the whole part. You can go about halfway around maybe. Okay. If you have a lot of wax on your part, you should probably take the wax off before you do this. Maybe take some alcohol and a rag. Okay. Don't put it on too thick. It'll actually chip off if you put it on too thick. Okay, so, and don't leave this bottle open. It'll evaporate very quickly. Allow that to dry for maybe 30 seconds or so. After the layout fluid is dry, what we want to do is come over to the vernier height gauge, and we're going to set our bar on the flat end that we machined when we faced it. So we faced this end off, so this should be nice and flat down here. So this should sit fairly flat on the table. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure off heights for the different parts of the screwdriver. Now the screwdriver has 9 lines to lay out, and we have to start the knurl not at the edge of the chamfer here, but a little bit in from that. Okay, so make sure that your knurl doesn't go all the way to the edge of that. That's not the way it should look. So we're going to take the dimensions off of here. They're all from the nose of the screwdriver, which makes it a heck of a lot easier for you to measure. So then we're going to come over here and lay those out. The first chamfer dimension is at 1/10 of an inch. So I'm going to bring this down, the vernier height gauge down to 0 to make sure it's zeroed, because it's your responsibility to make sure that this thing is zeroed. And let me see here. It looks right on. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank it up to 1/10 of an inch. You're going to actually work this backwards so that you get the dimension that you want instead of reading a dimension. Okay, so you get it into the range you want, and you crank it down to where you want to be exactly when it lines up, and tighten both of those. Well, then we'll come over here and we'll scribe. Hold your screwdriver down very tightly and scribe a line where that first chamfer is. Now you can see that we have a line scribed 1/10 of an inch away from the end. Okay, we do that for the rest of the 9 dimensions, and then look at your drawing to make sure that you're machining the right spot. It gets kind of confusing when we have all those lines. Okay, so mark the rest off, and we'll go back to the lathe. Okay, at this point what I want to do is I'm just going to machine out this area of the screwdriver. You can see all the lines on here. I'm going to machine the smaller diameter that's at 0.8 inches diameter. And then I'm going to have to produce chamfers on the sides. Okay, but what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to get the bulk of the material out just by moving back and forth by hand inside of these 2 lines here. Okay, I need to zero the crossfeed using the digital readout here. And remember how you do that. What we're going to do is we're going to come in, we're going to touch. Remember, we're right at 1 inch in diameter, so I'm going to come in and touch, and I'm going to put 1 inch diameter here, and we should be set up for diameter then. Okay, turn on the system. Okay, I'm touching. 0, 1.0, enter. Okay, now I'm right at 1 inch in diameter. I'll probably take off 50 thousandths per pass. No machine past the line. Okay, we can go a little farther. Okay, I'm at 806 thousandths now, and I want to go down to 800 thousandths, so I'm going to take my last cut. Okay, within a thousandth. Okay, so at this point we're going to actually have to take and turn the whole compound rest here in order to make 45-degree chamfers on the ends and on the sides of the screwdriver here. We also will want to go and machine a 0.8 diameter section on the other end of the screwdriver as well, because we need to be able to put the chamfer on that end. You can just take and smear a little bit of wax on that drill bit. Get it in there. Get it right on the tip. That'll help to lubricate it. And you don't want to drill real fast. You just want to apply light, constant pressure. Okay, we just machined this portion of the screwdriver down to I think it's 0.8 in diameter. And now what we have to do is come over to this end and machine another area that's at least 0.8 in diameter in order to create a relief on the end. So it's probably a good idea just to come down here and machine this to 0.8 in diameter as well. It's the easiest way to do it. And that'll, but don't cut it off yet. We want to just machine that down so that when we make the chamfer here, we have some place to go. Okay. So then after we do that, we're going to come in, we're going to put these chamfers in. We're going to come in at a 45-degree angle. We got to do 2 of them in this direction, and then 2 of them in that direction. Okay, so you got 4 chamfers in all. So let's go machine that end of it. Make sure all the feeds and speeds. Okay. Make sure that you're not going to hit your chuck on anything below, because we're getting closer to the chuck here. And put a little bit of wax on there. Okay. Okay, now we should have this end machined down exactly to 800 thousandths of an inch. Pretty good. Okay, at this point, what we want to do is turn our compound rest, this part here, to a 45-degree angle. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. We want our tool to be straight ahead, but we want our compound rest to be on an angle. This is where most people screw up. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take Allen wrench, the right size Allen wrench. We're going to loosen these two screws in the top of the compound rest. And then we're going to turn the compound rest to 45 degrees. There's a little mark over here. I don't know if you can zoom in on that mark right here. Can you see that, or is that in the way? See it? Okay, you see there's a little mark on the side of the rest, and we want to go right to 45 degrees. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use the tip of the tool to generate a surface. Okay, it's like drawing a line. So you use the tip of the tool to draw a line. We don't want to cut with the side of the tool. We want to cut with a point. And so what you need to do is you need to turn your tool holder so that you're straight ahead again. Okay, what's going to happen is the compound rest is going to go back and forth on this 45-degree angle, and the tip of it is going to generate that surface. We don't want to be touching on the sides. Just the tip should be doing the machining. And I'll show you what I mean in a second here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and I'm going to come in with, I got to look at my lines now, and I'm going to come in on a diagonal, and I'm going to come in until I touch that surface. So I have a 45-degree angle coming away from that surface. And the easiest way to do it, I like to do it, is to come in actually almost touch at point 8 and then feed back away from the part. And that way is a lot easier. That way you don't go too far. So I'm going to turn it on here. Okay, I'm going to come over to the side, and I'm going to be watching my line here. You can't take it all at once, so I'm going to come back on it a little bit, and it'll just take the side of that off. You see, we can generate it at a 45-degree angle there for a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it a little bit closer, and we're going to keep on doing this until I hit that line that I created on my part. Okay, see that I'm getting closer to the line? Okay, I'm going to move over a little bit towards the chuck, make another cut. You can see I'm getting closer to that line. Careful not to go past the point 8. Okay, we're getting close. And what you can do is you come back out in the center, just come until you touch the point 8, and then take a little more of a cut. Don't go past it. Kind of trial and error a little bit. Okay, here we go. I think this should be the last one, or pretty close to it. One more. Try not to cut into the .8 diameter. Okay, now you see that we put that chamfer right up to that first line. Remember, the second line right there is going to be where the knurl starts. The rough section of the screwdriver handle will start. Okay? I have to do one more 45-degree over here. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go over, and I'm going to keep on taking material off until I form that corner. Actually, in this one, I can go in that direction. It might be a little bit easier. So bring it over there. This part you're doing kind of by hand. Don't take all the material at once. Come over a little bit. Yeah, a little farther to go. I'll make one more cut. Okay, now you saw that I created 2 chamfers going in this direction at a 45-degree angle. Now I have to do the opposite. I have to create 2 chamfers going in the other direction. And so in order to do that, I'm going to move the compound rest the opposite way. And then I move my tool back. There's a little line over here. We line that up with the 45-degree mark on the lathe here. Tighten it down again. And then we're going to straighten out the tool again. Remember that the tool should be straight forward and backward. We don't want it to be on an angle at all. Okay, so the tool is straight ahead. Okay, make sure also that your tool is fairly pointed. If the sides of this are not pointed enough, you're going to be cutting on the side. At no point do I want to be cutting on the side. I want to be cutting at the tip. Okay, and then we'll come in and we'll do the same thing here. I'm going to feed from the 0.8 out on this one, and then over here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to feed from the 0.8 out. Okay. Okay, now I have the 2 chamfers in the front edge, and then one more chamfer needs to be formed at the back of the screwdriver here. So here we go. Okay, now I have just 2 marks left, and I'm going to put a knurl between those 2 marks. The knurling operation is fairly complicated by the fact that you have to push very hard sideways on this, and you have to make sure that the little wheels are turning. Otherwise, it'll just strip it'll strip a whole layer of aluminum off your part. So I'll show you how to set up the knurling tool. The most important thing about knurling is that you get your part in there very securely. Okay, you don't want any side movement in your part. You're pushing on the part with a lot of force, so we've got to make sure that the tailstock and the chuck and everything is really tight, so that as you're pushing on it, it doesn't move away from you.